Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of MHEDA Talks. I'm your host, Shari Altergott, the Chief Experience Officer at the CX Edge. Well, today I am so excited. I don't know if she knows that she's actually our first person to make a reappearance on
Ooh.
MHEDA Talks. We have Judy Hoberman. Judy is a trainer, executive coach, consultant speaker, and author. She has 30 years in sales, given both her knowledge and sense of humor about gender differences that we should all understand and embrace instead of feeling unable to communicate. And I could not be more excited than to welcome Judy. Welcome back.
Well, I'm thrilled always to be with you, but to be your first, do it again person. Like, wow, I'm excited.
I am too, and you're back by popular demand, I must say.
Well,
And
thank you.
we're in our fourth year of doing this podcast, and we're so
Amazing.
glad to have you back. So thank you for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure.
Although you've been on our podcast before, and I know a lot of our members are familiar with your work, I know not everybody might be. So I was hoping you could start off just giving us a little bit of background and kind of how you got started in your space.
Yeah, there's always long stories about why people do things, but honestly, I have always been around men in every industry that I've been, and I've been mentored by the most successful men. The challenge for me was, well, there were many challenges, but the biggest challenge for me was that I was a single mom and I needed somebody that was going to be able to say to me, do it this way and or do it that way, not do the work for me, but do it this way and then celebrate with me or give me that extra nudge. And the men were very successful, but they did things differently. So I went through the ranks of being a producer and having three agencies of my own. I went into corporate, and then I decided I was in the wrong space totally. I needed to do something that was going to be able to support other people and to make sure that they were getting the tools that they needed. So I left my corporate position. It was a big position. They were all pretty upset with me when I was leaving, but it wasn't right for me. And so I decided to start a company. And when I decided, I said, well, what would I want if I was starting all over? And truthfully, it would have been somebody that looked like me. And I don't mean, this looked like me, but a female. And when I couldn't figure out like where would I find all these great women, I decided to become the woman that I would have wanted. And that's how I started my company. And that was in 2009. And it has evolved a lot. I mean, if you've done this for 4 years, in 4 years, you've changed things or grew different ways. And I've done that. I've gone from 100% sales to sales and leadership. I've gone from 100% women to 95% women, but I always invite the men in because they are the champions and they are some of the people that advocate for women. So I have to be able to have something that works for them as well. So really that's the story. I'm an executive coach, I'm a trainer, I'm a speaker, and I just do a lot of things online, offline, person, whatever you need, I can do it, but I make sure that I'm very intentional with what I do for the right people.
I tell you, I can never hear that story enough times because I think it's a great story and certainly an inspiration. One of the things I wanted to focus on today, and I know you talk a lot about, and I've heard you talk about different speaking sessions in your books,
Mhm.
different coaching sessions, is communication. And I think everybody loves to talk about communication, as odd as maybe that sounds, but I don't think I've ever read an employee survey or employee feedback where communication didn't come up. I mean, it's a
Right.
constant issue in any business across any industry. And I think I've been in a lot of boardrooms where we talk about how do we improve communication, and it's kind of small, very tactical things. Um, so I wanted to get a sense from you that what do you believe is one of the biggest barriers in communication in business today?
There's so many, Sherry. I think one of the biggest ones is probably technology overload because there's so many things coming at you so quickly and you don't know how to decipher it all the time. And unless you have the person that created it, you're not really sure what's going on. But to me, one of the biggest challenges for people is, that they have really poor listening skills. Because if you want to be effective, not only do you have to be able to ask a question, you have to be able to listen to what happens next because people struggle to really listen and to be engaged with other people. And that to me is more important than almost anything. If you are a poor listener, you have to find a tool or some way that you can listen the best. And I know, in the height of my sales career, I was in front of people all the time, all the time, all the time, because I was in financial services. And I know, being a single mom, that I was always worried about what's happening over there and what do I have to do for dinner and what, am I going to be late? But I had to really devote my time and focus on whoever I was in front of. So I used to say to people, "Are you okay if I take notes?" They're either going to say yes or no. Nobody ever said no. But when you ask that question and they say to you, "Of course, take notes," you have to really be a good listener, because you're now making sure you're listening to everything that they're saying and in their own words and so on and so forth. And to me, that's the biggest barrier that there is, and the biggest challenge that there is in business, is that people just don't listen. And if they would just listen, it would be totally different.
I think it's interesting that you brought up technology, and I certainly agree with that. And in today's world, there's so many different forms of technology, as you said, that there's things coming at you through a multitude of different platforms. And when you talk to different employees in an organization, everybody has a different way they want to be communicated with. Even when you go to the doctor, they make you fill out a survey. Do you want to receive a text or an email or a phone
Right.
call? So, how do you really start to understand the different ways that individuals want to be communicated with when you lead a large company of hundreds or thousands of employees?
Like anything else, even if you have thousands of employees, you need to ask. What's the simplest way to find out what somebody wants to do is ask them. You can say, "What's your preferred method of communication?" or "How often would you like to be updated on this?" You ask, but you also have to observe. You have to see what people are thinking about, and how they want to do. Pay attention to what they're doing, so you can also decide this is how they want to, whether it's in person or if it's email or whatever. And it has to be something that you have to recognize, that different generations like to be communicated differently. And in all these big companies, you might have 5 different generations. When you're a trainer or you're a speaker, you also have to know how the different learning styles. Well, this is no different. Communication is no different. I know for me, if I get a text from someone and their name is not in it, I'm not responding to it, because you are not in my, or say to me, "Hi, this is Shari," because I don't want to do that. You need to be flexible, but you also have to figure out, like, observe and ask, or ask and observe. That's what I do in almost everything, because if you don't ask, you don't know.
Hmm. I agree. Do you think that, we've gone through a big cultural shift over the last 3 years with, everything that happened in 2020 and beyond that? Do you think the advent of more people working from home, either full time or people working on a hybrid schedule, has in any way negative or positively impacted communication?
I think it's done both, actually. One of the big things is that everybody that's working from home, whether it's full time or hybrid, they rely a lot on digital things, whether it's an email or a text or the video conferencing. That's all they do. That's what they do. That's what they know. That's how they communicate, which is how we did it for a couple of years. But people got so used to it that they don't want to go out and meet people. They want to do everything virtually. On the flip side, though, there is it's much more personal. When you're doing a Zoom call with people, you get to see each other in your natural habitat. And while it may not always be ideal, we understand that we're perfectly imperfect. And you can't get any more authentic than having your kids screaming over here, or having your cat walk across your screen, or having a full conversation and you're muted. So I think that it's done both things. I also do believe that when you had somebody working from home for 3 years or 2.5 years, it's very difficult for them to, for you to say, "Okay, now I want you back in the office 100%." So the hybrid at least gives them some kind of, like an easier transition to be able to communicate. But if you're working from home and your manager or supervisor or whoever is working in the office, or they're working from home, there has to be good communication. There has to be, like, um, weekly or daily or something kind of meetings, so you feel like you're still together and connected. Because that's one of the big things that I do believe, being hybrid or working from home, a lot of people suffered from, was lack of connection. And connection is a basic human need. So if you can't get it and you're not in person, you got to at least do it this way on a regular basis.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of my first experiences, and it was pre 2020, it was the first time I managed a hybrid team, and not having them in the office and that I could see him, it definitely took a big adjustment. And in the beginning, I had to put something on my calendar at least every
Hmm.
week just to make sure I was reaching out to them. Because sometimes it was just easy to get caught up in the day to day and
Yeah.
not follow up with them the way I would. So I think those are great points. Um, kind of staying on that topic, but shifting a little bit. I know that you are the queen at relationship building. I know you've done it throughout all of your career, and I think when we talk about relationship building and networking, it certainly goes hand in hand. How important do you believe that networking is in business today?
I think it's extremely important. You have to network not only within your company, but outside of your company, because it also helps you when you're outside of your company, it identifies new opportunities for you. Maybe it's new clients, or maybe it's new, strategic partners, or whoever it is. So when you build that network outside of your company, you're tapping into a really like a wider pool of resources. But you're also can help you promote your brand. And and I don't want anybody to say, well, I'm not, an entrepreneur. I work in corporate. You still have a brand, and you still have to have a professional brand. So when you establish yourself as somebody that's knowledgeable, or somebody that's reliable, or somebody that's professional, that when you network about, people will notice that. So, and networking lets you find support that you need. Because a lot of times we need somebody to talk to, whether it's internally or externally. But I know for a fact, if you don't build that network before you need it. When you need it, it's going to be too late. So it's really important to start networking. I know for me, if I said to you today, you know what, Sherry, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm old. I'm cranky. I don't want to do this anymore. I have to find something else. I have a big enough network that somebody's going to say, did you talk to this person? Let me introduce you to this person. So I have created a lot of relationships because I know you build relationships before you need them, but it's really, really important to put yourself in that mode of meeting new people. They don't all have to be friends. They don't all have to be, strategic partners for you, but you never know who that person knows. And whoever you want to know, it's not 6 degrees of separation anymore. It's two. So somebody that you should know. And and I'm really very big on connecting people if I feel it's the right connection. I don't just connect because you need to meet somebody. I have to be really intentional about it.
Mhm. So, how for people like me, I always describe myself as a natural born introvert
Me
that's
too.
always trying to be extrovert. And it took me a long time to get comfortable with
Hmm.
networking, even where to go and how to do it. And to be honest, MHEDA really was one of those first places that I went to really start developing my networking abilities. What advice or tips do you give people that aren't really comfortable with it yet, but recognize that it's something they need to do?
Okay, so you might as well just be talking to me yourself because this is me. I am like the biggest introvert that there is, and I had to develop tips and strategies for myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't know anybody. So the very first thing I would tell you, whatever you're doing, wherever you're networking, is get there early. Be one of the first people there. Why? Because you don't have to walk up to someone and say, "Hi, my name is Shari." They walk up to you because you're already there. That was the first thing I learned as an introvert. The second thing is you have to have a goal in mind. Why are you going there? What are you going to be doing? Who are you looking for? My goal is always to meet three amazing people, and I will walk up to you. You have to be amazing, or I won't say it. And I will say, "Hey, Shari, I want you to meet three amazing women today, and you're one of them." So the very first thing you're thinking is, wow, she thinks I'm amazing. I wonder why. And if you asked me why, I would need to have to tell you. So you don't make this up. But that's always my goal. The third thing is you have to be prepared. Okay. Not with this smooth elevator pitch that you can just, give like it's just so canned. You have to have business cards or some way to capture information from somebody. And then you also have to be able to tell somebody something that says to you, they say back to you, really? Tell me more. Okay. And the other thing is, be intentional. Don't just network everywhere in the world. Network where your people are or the people that you need to find are. So be intentional. And the other thing I want to say is don't hard sell. And that's a big thing in networking. When somebody walks up to you and says, do you want to buy a house? Are you looking for a computer? No, I'm not. I'm here because I want to meet people. So be authentic and just don't be somebody that you think other people want you to do because they don't really want you to do that. Just, be yourself. And the biggest thing of all is follow up. If you tell somebody I'm going to send you information by the end of the day, you better send it because it's a pretest. They want to see if you're actually going to do what you say you're going to do. And if you don't, they're going to, like, why should I do business with her? So,
Mm. I love that. I think those are great tips. And I can say from personal experience, it was you just have to start somewhere. You
right,
just sign up for that first event or go to that happy hour and just take it one step at a time. It
right.
doesn't you don't have to do everything at once, and it's still I get nervous sometimes going to networking events.
I do
Especially if
too.
it's a new event where I don't know anybody. But I keep doing it because that's what's going to continue to make me better.
Yeah.
So I encourage anybody that's like us to get out there and just start somewhere. And the MHEDA events are a great way to start that. We talked a little bit before the session just about organizing our time and all of the different things going on. In today's world, I know so many people that have so many competing priorities, asked to do more with less. They get through the end of their week and they know they were busy, but aren't sure they actually did anything. What are some of your tips to just organizing your time to be as productive as possible?
The first thing you have to do is you have to set your priorities. What are they? Identify your priorities, because that's where you need to spend your time and your energy. If you prioritize things, other things will fall into place. And create a schedule. I mean, a lot of people use their phones for a calendar. I use my computer, but I also have a paper calendar, because to me, I like to see it without having to look for it and open something up. So I color block everything. And whatever it is, it's a certain color. And things that I hate doing the most, I make in purple because I love purple. So then I look at it and go, okay, it's not so bad. But the other thing I do is I set alarms for 5 minutes before any of my appointments. Because if you have something on your calendar on your computer, and it sends you a message that, okay, it's time to do this, you have to be on it. But if you have an alarm, okay, I've got 5 minutes, so I have to keep going. So I always do that. And people go, I never thought of that. But yeah, that's a really easy one. The other thing is you have to learn how to say no. You can't say yes to everything, because otherwise you're saying no to something really, really important. And then the other thing to prioritize is don't multitask. Do something and completely finish it, and then do something else. So there's all different time management apps and whatever, but I always say, start with your priorities. But here's a really good one that I do, and I always recommend it. Have you ever heard of the Pomodoro technique?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Pomodoro means tomato in Italian, so I'm not really sure why it's called Pomodoro, except that you have to use a timer, so they use a tomato timer. But what you do is you sit down and you start to work for 25 minutes. Your timer goes on for 25 minutes, and it doesn't mean you're first starting to get ready to start to work. You have to sit down and do whatever it is for 25 minutes. When that timer goes off at 25 minutes, you have to get up from your desk and you have to do something for 5 minutes. Then you come back for 25 minutes. You'd be surprised if you did like 3 or 4 of those in a row, how productive you'd actually be, because you're really focused on finishing something in 25 minutes or getting a lot of it done. So, I just try to keep my priorities straight and make sure I get done what really needs to get done first.
That's a fantastic tip. I'm gonna try that one out this week for sure. I like that, the Pomodoro.
Pomodoro, tomato.
I don't have a tomato timer,
It's
but
okay.
I
You
do.
can just use a timer.
Um, so I was so excited to hear that you've partnered with MHEDA again to do
Yep.
another virtual Women in Industry series. This one's on standout communications,
hmm
and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about what people can hope to learn from that upcoming series.
Well, we've just talked about how important communication is. So it's like the perfect thing, and especially for the women of MHEDA that really can use something about communication, because we can all use it. So it's a 4-part virtual series, and it really is going to take you to weave you through communication, thinking outside of the box, making intentional choices. Like I said, we're going to talk about your personal brand and building relationships. And you want to be able to stand out from your competitors, and you want to be able to stand out from anybody that you need to stand out with. People should know who you are. So we're going to be able to talk to you about how to network with intention, how to communicate, all different kinds of strategies, and you'll understand the importance of asking questions and then listening, and the importance of communicating with different generations and different people, and how to build business relationships and build relationships in business. So it's going to be awesome. I love MHEDA. You know I love MHEDA. And so when we put this together, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait. Unfortunately, it's not tomorrow, but it's coming up soon.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait. And I've attended the last few virtual series you've done, and they've been fantastic. And I've taken something away from all of them.
Yay.
Um, so if you haven't attended one in the past, make sure to sign up. You can sign up at Mahida's website. It's mahida.org. It's coming up in May. So go ahead and get it on your calendar and set those alarms because I'm sure it'll be fantastic. And I'm sure you'll walk away with more tips than you know what to do with. So, thank you for doing that for the community. It really is a great educational,
Thank
continuing
you.
education strategy.
I am honored and
So,
privileged.
Judy, I don't know if you remember because this is your second time,
I do.
but we do have a lightning round.
I
And
know.
just because it's your second time doesn't get you out of it. It actually
I
made
know.
I made the questions a little bit more challenging this time.
Oh, I'm like, I'm sweating already. Go ahead.
So you're ready to enter the lightning round?
I'm ready.
All right. First one. How do you celebrate a big win?
I do something with my family, but something that means something to me. So it could be, flying to see my kids or, yeah, it's just something big, but it has to be something that's important to me, but it usually involves my family.
Would you rather have regrets about actions or regrets about inactions?
Oh, inaction. Yeah, definitely.
How do you order your eggs?
I like them soft boiled.
What do you wish you learned sooner?
Um, that I didn't have to be perfect. It took me a long
Like,
time to figure that out.
that's a good one. What is the lamest dessert that people try to pass off as a dessert?
Fruitcake.
Fruit. That's a good. What would be your walk-on song when you enter a ring?
Oh, I've had so many of those. Let's see. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's solid. What would you get tattooed on your body for your 80th birthday?
I can't get tattoos. It's against my moral compass. But if I was going to get it when I was 80, I would say um, a little tiny heart. Tiny.
Tiny. How do you handle it when you forget somebody's name at a social or work function?
Well, if I don't have anybody next to me that knows who that is, I just usually walk up and I go, "Hi, I'm Judy. Remember me?" And they go, "Yes, I'm Susie. Remember me?" Yeah, so that's how it usually works.
That's a good one. What's something you could eat for a week straight?
Sushi.
I just took my daughter this weekend for sushi. It
Yum.
was fantastic. And finally, what has been your favorite age so far?
Right now. This is my favorite age right now because I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be finally, and I have a really good family and really good friends, and yeah, I think it's right now.
Well, awesome. We're glad to experience that with
Yeah,
you. So you made it through your second lightning
I
round.
know. I'm like,
Congratulations,
shoot.
Judy. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Um, that sadly brings us to the end of our podcast, but I will see you again in May.
Yes,
Do you have any parting words you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I would say always take a chance, even when you feel like you shouldn't do it. Take a chance because you never know what the outcome is. Most people say, "What's the worst that can happen?" I always add on, "What's the best that can happen?" And if you're not following Shari and all of her posts, you better be doing that because I am telling you, and I said this before we went live, that a lot of times when I see it in the morning, I'm like, she is in my head. So you're very special. You are like a super rock star. So
Well, thank you so much for that, Judy. And thank you so much for spending time with us. I'll see you, like I said, in May. Again,
mhm.
make sure you go to Mahida's website. All the information is there to sign up for Judy's virtual series. So thank you again, and we'll see you all next time. I'm your host, Shari Altergott.